I recently deadlifted 250 kilograms the same week as running a 250 kilometer ultramarathon, and this is how I did it. In today's video, I'm going to run through the what, the why, the how, and the reality with things like this, because I think the phrase hybrid athlete has spiraled somewhat out of control on TikTok principally, but also here on YouTube, and I thought it would be important to hammer home some of the key principles and things to consider when it comes to balancing opposing ends of the spectrum. So first things first, let's break down why I love such stupid activities like this. Well, it's because I have a history of doing strength and endurance or speed related activities in the same day because I find it fun. I find it entertaining. I find it a really good way to train and sort of challenge myself in a hybrid setting to be able to make progress and work towards difficult, challenging metrics simultaneously. That's ultimately what hybrid training is. It is the balance of concurrent training disciplines that do not inherently support one another and whose disparate components are not essential to success at any one sport. That is Alex Viada's definition from the book The Hybrid Athlete, published in 2015. And it essentially means that if you are training to make progress in disciplines that do not inherently make you better at the other, like running doesn't make you a better powerlifter, powerlifting doesn't make you a better runner, so if you're training for progress in both of them simultaneously, ergo, hybrid training. So my first real dive into this silly old world was a 500-pound back squat and sub 5-minute mile in the same day, which I did in July 2020, and I didn't quite stick the landing, unfortunately. But I really enjoyed the process of training for this because it really taught me how to balance and understand and work with the nuances and challenges of training such top-end disciplines concurrently. Did I have a good time? At points. Did I have a bad time? Yes, as I was almost throwing up all over multiple tracks around the UK because I had to hop a fair few fences to get onto them because we were amidst that part of our lives that we don't talk about anymore. The following year, almost a year to the day, in fact, I did a 1,200 pound powerlifting total the same day as a sub 12 hour Ironman. And that was a long day. I was lifting at 3 in the morning and in the water to swim at 6 in the morning. And I was relieved when I got to the finishing line in just under 12 hours. Do I recommend lifting immediately before an Ironman? No, but did I enjoy the process of balancing a powerlifting total with an Ironman? Yes. Yes, I did. And at the end of that year, I did a 600 kilogram powerlifting total the same day as a sub 6 hour, 60 kilometer ultramarathon. And again, really enjoyed the discipline of top end strength balanced against ultra endurance because they give me very different things. And that's why I love training like this. That's why I love talking about it on the channel, because I get so much value as an individual from the different demand that comes from putting Creed in your ears, smelling salts and doing a heavy deadlift, to the deliberated, calm, measured, emotional control process of, let's say, running 250 kilometers in one go. Last year, I attempted a 500-pound deadlift and mile all within a 5-minute time cap. So as I picked up the deadlift, the timer started and I had to do it all within 5 minutes. Unfortunately, I fell just short of that, but amidst the training process, ran a sub 5-minute mile again at over 200 pounds for the second time in my life, having vowed previously to never, ever attempt that again. So we're kind of working on a 3-year rotation. So in 2026, right here on the channel, you'll likely see me training for a sub 5-minute mile again. Anyway, this time round, I was training for a 250 kilometer ultramarathon because I plotted out a route from Edinburgh to Fort William and it worked out at being roughly 250k. So I made it so and thought that is a nice round number. That is a terrifying thing for me. I love the route. I love Scotland. I love the fear that goes with taking this on. So I committed to it. But along the way, I did feel like it was difficult for me to be as excited about my strength training. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do what I always do and pair some numbers together neatly to present this as a hybrid event of sorts, but more importantly, to give me a focus and purpose with my own training, because that's ultimately the most important thing, selfishly speaking. If it doesn't get me out of the bed in the morning excited to train for it, I won't do it. So the idea of a 250 kilo deadlift and 250 kilometer run in the same week was born, and the training process unfolded in terms of training split, as I will break down for you shortly. So let's rewind to Monday, the 25th of March, where right there in our gym, I started loading up a barbell for a 250 kilo deadlift on my own. There was no one else around, unfortunately. Didn't even have a camera guy. In fact, I just had the tripod and the camera as it is now. And I know what you're thinking. Angry, biomechanically misinformed internet deadlift police. That is a sumo deadlift. Yes, it is. But here's a fun fact for you. My all-time best deadlift PB is actually in a conventional stance, not in a sumo one, but whenever I'm doing really high volume, I pull sumo because it takes a little bit of a stress off my lower back in terms of the training process, just so I can make sure that I'm balancing the equation of my actual training inputs as much as I can. That's what hybrid training is. It's turning up certain dials, turning down certain dials so that you can move things forwards. And one of the ways in which I do that is taking a little bit of stress off my lower back from a systemic fatigue point of view week to week by pulling sumo when I'm doing big endurance challenges. 29th of March, the same week, we set off from right here, just outside, in fact, on the canal, just down that way to run from here to Fort William. And that we did. The full video is on the channel, on the screen for you just here. And I would love for you to go and check that out, as that really breaks down what that experience was like. The highs, the lows, the emotional demand, the unpredictable elements to it, the controllables, the uncontrollables, and what it was like in a team setting. All in all, I'd say it was a lot of fun upon reflection, and something that has taught me an awful lot about myself that I can take with me moving forwards. So the main thing to focus on is the how, and I'm going to do that by simply breaking down the training split that I loosely follow for the most part. It's important to mention that I could sit here and say this is what I did every week, day to day, but I didn't, because there were a lot of business demands going on. We've had loads of changes going on with the office. We've had new staff starting here. I've been managing a lot of things, and there's been some days where I've had to shuffle things around travel. And I want to make it clear that that is important when balancing big training goals, that you need to be flexible and adaptable around circumstances. Otherwise, it'll be quite easy to get into a spin. So I loosely followed the structure of our strength and ultra 100K plan, with obviously bigger volume on the running side of things. But the week-to-week structure that we always follow with all of our training at Omnia Performance is peaking intensity at the start of the week and peaking volume at the end. And those invert as the week goes on, which means that heavier lifts, harder effort running, harder effort swimming, harder effort biking, etc., all earlier in the week. Tempo, moderate, sub-threshold stuff all midweek. And then longer, slower, zone 2, higher rep work, etc., is all at the end of the week. So generally speaking, Mondays for me were lower body, deadlift dominant, and hill intervals. I was either doing them on the treadmill here or just out on the concrete, sometimes getting to the pentlands, but for the most part had to be on the treadmill. Lower body were deadlifts in anywhere from the 3 to 1 range in terms of reps, and I wasn't doing any more than real 2 top-end working sets. Assistant was generally paused beltless front squats or safety bar squats, and then I had some split squats, RDLs or stiff leg deadlifts, along with some fluff stuff alongside that. The hill reps were anywhere from 90 seconds to 3 minutes, and were just sort of big batches of hard work, not too much volume, but just to get me conditioned to moving hard up the hill so that I could, experience the feeling of blasting myself up a hill, because there was plenty of that in the 250. Tuesday was generally upper body and low intensity steady state stuff, and the upper body was always bench press in the sort of 3 to 5 rep range with a whole load of bro assistant stuff. I didn't do anything too exciting along the way. It was very much a case of going through the motions, doing the minimum amount of work required to hold on to muscle mass and strength, and not really much more, because it was a deadlift dominant focused training prep. But really all I was doing my best to hold on to strength amidst bigger running volume. And then the steady state zone 2 stuff was the sort of training during the week that I wasn't wearing a watch for. Very busy period of training with work, so I was actually, generally speaking, not wearing a Garmin for any data that I wasn't filming, recording anywhere that I knew was 5K away, 10K away, and turn around and come back. I just wanted to be completely free of technology and go off my zone 2 feel. Wednesday was either fartlek stuff or sort of maybe more zone 3, sometimes up into the pentlands, and sometimes even nothing, because Wednesdays tended to be a lot of my travel days. So if there was a session that got bumped more often than not in the week, it was actually the Wednesday session, just around some of the things that we had. But there were a few trips that we did up north where we ended up doing big Wednesdays in the hills and things like that. So Wednesday was quite a variable run day throughout the prep, anywhere from sort of 8K to 20K. But depending on terrain, depending on the week in terms of work structure and travel and things, that was quite a variable piece. Thursday was a variation-focused assistance day, so pause squats, close grip bench press, more RDLs, stiff leg deadlifts, stuff like that, all sort of reps in the 6 to 8 rep range, not too demanding, RP7, maybe RP8, but more just movement practice and general assistance work. Not too long, those sessions would be about 45 minutes, always full body focus, so there's not too much fatigue accumulating in any one body part. And then there would be some more list work there as well. Again, same as Tuesday, about an hour's work, generally speaking, not wearing a watch, not tracked, just because I sort of wanted to get out and breathe the air, shall we say. Friday was a more full body pre-fatigue style training session. So that was a bit more higher volume, higher reps, lighter weight, reverse lunging, goblet squatting, things like that. If anyone's done any of our training plans, you'll know just how much horrible full body Friday work is in there. I was doing a lot of that with a few variations along the way, with some 2 to 4 miles of zone 2 work at the back end. So I was basically doing my work in the gym and then running out of the gym for 2 to 4 miles, real easy, but uncompromised, just destroyed legs. So it was just getting used to training and moving into fatigue, so that more proprioceptively and psychologically, I was used to running feeling pretty destroyed. But there are some physiological adaptations that can come from that as well. And then Saturday and sometimes Sundays were my long aerobic zone 2 days. So I think it peaked at 6 hours on Saturdays, and then there was a couple of weekends where it was 6 hours Saturday, no, 5 hours Saturday and 4 hours Sunday. And there were some weeks where I'd run 3 or 4 times for an hour to 90 minutes during the week. It was all quite variable and adaptable week to week, but that was the structure that we loosely used for the most part. The one thing that was generally throughout was the Saturday long runs were protected. Those were always sort of fixed and set in stone, never adjusted around work, travel, gym access, any of that stuff. And they progressively got longer and longer and felt better and better. The only slight hiccup came in probably about 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out, when I absolutely decimated my ankle and foot on a tree route along Loch Lomond, which made me think that perhaps we were going down the wrong direction. So that is a loose structure as to what my week has looked like as part of the prep for this. The important thing to flag at this point is the reality of this, which is that for the most part, hybrid training is not about doing more. It's actually about doing more with less. And I think it's really important to fight against the narrative that hybrid training online is just a complete clusterfuck of everything going on all at once, and we're trying to be the best in everything that we can be all at once. It's not the case. You can't do that. You cannot adapt and recover at everything all at once. But if you are looking to set clear and specific goals in 2, maybe 3 concurrent disciplines that don't inherently support one another, and you can structure your training in a way that's sensible and you can recover from and you can progress, then you can do exactly that. The reality is as well, I've spent years building a strength and muscle mass base, which I'm fighting like mad to hold on to on top of this endurance stuff. Nutrition is a huge part of that. I've done a video on how important it is to balance the books. If you increase your endurance output, you need to increase your input of food, because there's a calorie deficit that's being created with your increased expenditure that you need to balance. Otherwise, you're just going to be tanking your calorie balance week to week and inadvertently putting yourself into a deficit when you might think you're at maintenance, you might think you're in a surplus. I think it's a case of, if you want to make progress in specific disciplines, then you need to train specifically. That's a fundamental component of fitness adaptation and programming. So I guess the reality really is that training for this was very, very demanding for me and took a lot from me, but is against the foundation of years and years of work and building up to this and becoming more and more sensible and less egotistical with how much training I should be or could be doing on a week-by-week basis. Sometimes less can be more, and there are many mistakes that people make when getting into hybrid training. The video on screen that I've listed were the 6 main ones. But the bottom line is that I managed to deadlift 250 kilograms the same week as a 250 kilometer ultramarathon by not thinking like an ultramarathon runner. I was thinking like a strength athlete, and I was thinking like an ultramarathon athlete, but having to compromise on both of those things based on my strengths, my weaknesses, to be able to move myself forwards to the goal at hand. That's where specificity is important. That's where assessing the individual is important. And that's why you can't really paint broad brushstroke, this is exactly what you should do, recommendations when it comes to talking about hybrid training in general. Specific goals are important. And if you're looking for specific training goals, then there is a wide variety of training plans on Omnia's website that you can choose. And there's a discount code in the description down below for you to use as well. So check that out if you're looking for some specific training for specific goals. And if you're interested in one-to-one coaching, that is also available there. If you're not ready for any of that, then just sign up to the mailing list down below. There are 15 lessons from running 250 kilometers in there for you to sign up to, and even a bonus video that I think is like 28 minutes long of me breaking them down in more detail for you to review afterwards. If you want to be part of a secret society with an extra bonus YouTube video, you know where to go. Anyway, that is that. That is a bit of a summary of all of these stupid hybrid challenges that I've done and made up over the years. I want the real overarching narrative of this video to be that it's about fun. There's a lot of people trying to ascribe definitions to things or put people in certain boxes or fight against certain labels and whatnot. But I love fitness. I love training across a variety of disciplines, and I think that the more that we explore them, the more value there is to be gained. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like the video, comment down below with your thoughts and or feelings, and make sure to hit subscribe as well as the little bell icon button so you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.